Next week on Coronation Street, one question hangs over everything. Who is going to die? Flash Forward Week finally delivers the answer, and with 5 names in danger, every episode feels like it could end in tragedy. By the time Betsy makes a horrifying discovery, the street may be changed for good. The story takes us back to the day of Carla and Lisa's wedding, but instead of celebration, the focus turns to fear, tension, and the final hours of one of 5 possible victims. Megan, Jodie, Carl, Theo, and Maggie are all in the firing line, and each episode follows what could be the last day of one of their lives. That structure alone makes the whole week feel tense, because every scene suddenly matters more. Every argument, every threat, and every bad decision starts to look like the one that pushes someone over the edge. One of the darkest threads belongs to Todd and Theo. Todd is left terrified when Theo suddenly appears at the shop flat, and the situation quickly turns violent as Todd tries to get away. There is no sense of safety here at all. Theo is no longer just a threat from the past. He is right there in Todd's space, controlling the situation and forcing Todd into panic mode. George arrives just in time and helps Todd overpower Theo, and together they escape and report him to Kit. But even then, the danger does not feel over, because Theo has already disappeared. That is what makes this storyline so disturbing. Todd is desperate to run, even getting into a cab to head for the airport, which says a lot about how trapped and frightened he feels. He is not thinking about standing his ground anymore. He just wants out. But even that plan collapses when he realizes he has left his phone behind. When he turns back and comes face to face with Theo again, now holding the phone, it turns into a full psychological nightmare. It is no longer just about violence. It becomes a cruel game of control, with Theo enjoying Todd's fear. Todd seems pushed to a point where survival is the only thing on his mind, and when a person is cornered like that, anything can happen. Theo feels like one of the strongest possibilities in this mystery, simply because this confrontation sounds like it is heading toward a brutal breaking point. Carl's storyline feels different, but no less dangerous. Debbie tells Ronnie and Kevin that she has paid Carl to leave because she cannot tolerate his behavior anymore. That decision clearly hurts her, which shows this is not easy for her, but she has finally accepted that keeping him in her life only causes more damage. Carl, however, does not sound like someone ready to walk away quietly. Before leaving, he tries to sort out loose ends, but instead he causes even more trouble, provoking Abby, Tyrone, and Kevin. What stands out most is how spiteful Carl becomes. He does not just lash out with words, he secretly tampers with the brakes on Kevin's car. That is a huge escalation. It shows someone acting out of resentment, anger, and a need for revenge rather than reason. Carl seems determined to leave destruction behind him, almost as if he wants everyone else to suffer for rejecting him. When a character reaches that state, their downfall usually is not far away. This could easily be the act that seals his fate, whether because he is exposed, confronted, or dragged into something even more dangerous. Then there is Jodie, whose story seems driven by hurt, rejection, and old wounds that never really healed. She is preparing to leave Weatherfield, but everything changes when she hears Shona screaming and finds 2 men confronting her outside. Jodie realizes they are there for her, and she gives up the hard drive because she sees no other choice. That moment suggests there is still something protective in her, because when the danger becomes real, she steps in. Shona notices how shaken she is and, grateful for what Jodie has done, asks her to stay. But any chance of reconciliation does not last long. The minute Jodie learns that Shona did receive her letter, everything shifts. Her anger comes flooding back, and that sense of rejection becomes unbearable again. Rather than dealing with the pain directly, she turns it outward and goes after David, setting a trap to try to destroy his marriage to Shona. That says a lot about her mental state. Jodie seems to be acting from a place of emotional chaos, wanting other people to feel as broken as she does. But that kind of revenge rarely ends well, and soon she is left outside alone, sitting at the swings and forced to face the mess she has made. When someone approaches her and it becomes clear that her past, or perhaps her present mistakes, are catching up with her, it feels like the consequences are finally arriving all at once. Jodie also feels like a very strong candidate. because her story sounds like it is building toward a painful reckoning. Megan and Maggie's conflict brings another layer of danger, and this one feels explosive. Eva, Leanne, and Toya drag Megan into the flat to pressure her into confessing, but she refuses and only makes things worse by winding everyone up until another struggle breaks out and she is punched in the nose. Even then, Megan still tries to play the victim with Daniel, but he wants nothing more to do with her. That leaves her isolated, and isolation can be very dangerous in a week like this. Once Megan is thrown out of number one and ends up alone in the ginnel, she overhears Maggie and Melanie and secretly records incriminating information. That is classic Megan. Even when cornered, she looks for leverage. She does not back down. She looks for a weapon. But that move triggers a direct confrontation with Maggie, and when Megan reveals a secret of her own, Maggie completely loses control. That phrase alone tells you everything about the emotional temperature of this feud. Maggie is no longer just angry. She is pushed beyond reason. If this fight keeps escalating, and the show is already hinting at someone falling to their death, then either Megan or Maggie could easily be the body Betsy finds. This storyline feels especially unpredictable because both women sound like they are operating on pure emotion by that point. Amid all this, Sarah gets caught in the middle of a violent home invasion, which adds even more chaos to an already dangerous week. She may not be one of the 5 names at the center of the murder mystery, but her involvement shows how wide the fallout becomes. This is no longer a series of separate feuds. Everything across Weatherfield is starting to collide. And then comes the moment everything has been building toward. Betsy Swain finds a body. With bloodshed everywhere and several lives hanging in the balance, that discovery confirms the worst. One person does not make it out alive. Looking at the week as a whole, Theo, Jodie, Carl, Megan and Maggie all have strong reasons to be at the center of the tragedy. Theo feels like the most immediate physical threat. Carl looks like a man creating his own downfall. Jodie seems emotionally shattered and vulnerable. And Megan and Maggie are both locked in a feud that could easily turn fatal. The clever part is that each storyline feels dangerous in a different way. So the answer could come from fear, revenge, desperation, or rage. One thing is certain. By the end of next week, Coronation Street will not look the same. If you want more Coronation Street spoilers, updates, and breakdowns, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what happens next.